Last year, I want to go back to last year. Green Bay had been pushed around a little bit by Philadelphia and the Chargers. And then in week 12, they faced San Francisco. And Green Bay got punched right in the neck. 37-8, over at halftime, hell, over in the second quarter. Green Bay won the rest of its games and went to the NFC Championship. I could never unsee that. I never took Green Bay seriously. Between getting pushed around by Philadelphia, get pushed around by the Chargers, but San Francisco wasn't even a fair fight. It looked like a boxing match with a heavyweight and a lightweight. I couldn't unsee it. I never took Green Bay seriously. By the way, either did Green Bay because they went and drafted 3 interior linemen, a blocking tight end, and a power running back. Green Bay knew they had an issue. I'm watching Lamar Jackson take on Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City and Baltimore. I can't unsee that. It changes things. The gap between Mahomes and Lamar is growing. The gap between the Chiefs' confidence and the Ravens' confidence when they play the Chiefs is widening. It's getting worse, not better. Lamar's now 0-5 against the Chiefs and playoff teams, and he doesn't look the same on third down trailing. I feel like Patrick Mahomes is on an escalator. You've seen those in the mall. He's just slowly ascending. Every time I see him, he's just a little better, reaching the top floor. The question is, with Lamar Jackson, is he on one of those people movers at the airport? It gets you there faster. It's really efficient. I love getting on him. But it's useless if you're trying to go to the very top floor, and the very top floor in the NFL is, of course, the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson trailing. Lamar Jackson has to pass third and long. It's widening. He's not the same. 3rd and 14 for Mahomes. They just drop touchdown plays. I mean, score doesn't matter. Like on the field, where your field position doesn't matter. Time doesn't really matter on 3rd and 14. Russell Wilson's got a little bit of that, a lot of that. With Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't feel like that. Score, trailing, down in distance, feels like it matters. It impacts him. Now, Patrick Mahomes admitted last year, he admitted this, his words. He goes, I couldn't really read a defense until just a little bit past halfway on the season. All right, so I went and looked a little past halfway in the season. That's week 11. He's 12-0. He's lost 3 games, by the way, last year. 2 on a bad ankle and 1. Remember, he had the dislocated knee. It was the first game back, and you could tell he didn't want to run. He had dislocated knee. I mean, Tom Brady, after he had a knee issue, didn't want to get hit for a year. For about a game, Mahomes is like, I'm not running. That's it. Since then, week 11, 12-0, and it's getting worse. Now, let's add perspective. Let's not go crazy here. It's Monday Night Football. The only game being played, a week ago, we thought the Raiders were great. Let's slow down. Let's add perspective. Let's put those numbers up. Yes, Lamar Jackson is still great. Baltimore's going to win their division. They're going to reel off a bunch of wins, and Lamar Jackson is 21-1 against the rest of the NFL. He's just not good against Kansas City. But part of why he's not is he gets into a gunfight, and he falls behind, and he doesn't quite feel the same. Now, Baltimore's not going to be behind in most of the games. I think they're going to win their division. He's going to have a great year. He's an incredible young talent. But when I saw the Packers last year just get pushed all over the field, it was like a mismatch in an octagon. I couldn't take them seriously. I knew they were good. I knew they could get to the NFC Championship, but against San Francisco, they played them the second time. I'm like, this is not competitive. This is not, and it wasn't. And if these two teams play again, and I think Baltimore could end up in the AFC Championship, but if across the field's Patrick Mahomes, I can't unsee what I saw last night. May still be the 2 best teams in the AFC. I still think Baltimore is a top 4 or 5 team in the NFL. Absolutely. I still think they're going to win the next most of the games they play. And they're going to win a playoff game, maybe 2. But that leaves a mark. So beyond the obvious butt kicking last night, the first thing I'm thinking of, because the game felt like it was over, like midway through the second, you're like, this thing's getting out of hand. It was the closest blowout I'd ever seen, right? It was like 20-10, and it felt like a lopsided blowout. And my first takeaway is, well, how do you beat Kansas City? And I think there's 2 teams in the league that can do something. First of all, it's nice to have a little bit of a running game so you could take the ball out of Kansas City's hands, eat the clock. That's important. That's usually a way to beat great quarterbacks is keep them on the bench. But what's more important is getting to Mahomes without blitzing. The 2 teams I've seen in the league that can get pressure without blitzing and have a quarterback good enough to be a headache, New England with Cam and Tampa with Brady. They both can eat some clock running. That's the second thing. But the first thing is they'll get pressure without bringing heat because, as Patrick Mahomes said, once he figured out how to read a defense, blitzes no longer work. They didn't work against Peyton Manning. They didn't work against Tom Brady in his prime, and they're now not working against Mahomes. Against the blitz last night, he was 17 of 20, 3 touchdowns, and 156 quarterback rating. Blitzing's out, unless it comes from the weak side and he can't see it. Remember, Monday Night Football, we hyperventilate. The Raiders are amazing. No, they're not. Week 1, Steven Gostkowski is the worst kicker in the league. He was 6 for 6 last week. He's won 3 games with game-winning kicks. He's not the worst kicker in the league. So let's not go crazy. But if you go to the Super Bowl, what did San Francisco do against Patrick Mahomes? And this is the Patrick that admitted he'd learned how to read a defense. They got pressure with 4. And for 3 quarters, it worked. And probably would have worked if Jimmy Garoppolo hits one deep ball to Emmanuel Sanders. By the way, this is what the New York Giants did to beat the undefeated New England Patriots with Tom Brady. That wasn't about Eli Manning. Eli had one great throw. That was about getting massive pressure with 4 and then dropping 7 into coverage. So Tom was hurried and throwing in to 7 defenders. And so if you look at what Tampa can do right now with Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh, Shaq Barrett, JPP, they'll get heat, and they have an amazing linebacking core. So Tampa doesn't have to blitz. They'll get heat. New England now doesn't need to blitz, and they can get heat. Then augment that with a nice little running game with Cam, Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead, or you go with Tampa and Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. So it's nice to have occasionally, once or twice a game, have Mahomes sitting on the sidelines for 8 minutes, 20 minutes of real time, 8 minutes of game time and watching, get him potentially a little out of sync. But I'm watching last night, and I see Tampa's defense and Tom Brady, New England's defense and Cam in that running game, and I think that's the way to beat him. And by the way, Vegas sees that. What do you think the line is for New England at Kansas City? It's 7. That's all it is. It's 7. Because they know Patrick Mahomes is going to be under duress, and Belichick's going to drop that amazing secondary back into coverage, and they're going to pound and pound and pound the ball and keep Patrick, at least for a little while, off the field. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.